Guys, welcome to this morning's live. Hope you guys are having a great Monday so far. Tuesday, actually. Time has actually flown. Today, we're really talking about, you've built a life that they said would make you happy. So the question really is, why do you still feel so numb? I'm actually really excited to get into today's episode. We even got a dual camera going. And today I want to give you guys an update, number one, on what's been going on in our life. We're currently 1 week into the penthouse, and also everything that we're going to be covering today. We're going to be talking about why achieving your goals really won't make you happy and how success and happiness aren't really the same thing. More importantly, we're going to be deep diving on what you need to do in order to actually be happy. 1 week into the penthouse, you can actually see that the background here is absolutely incredible. And there's also a reason why I want to do the podcast and lives at this specific time. It's when the sun rises. And with our new offer, Rising with the Tide, we're on a rise rooftop. It just makes a lot of sense to actually catch the morning. You can actually see in the background that the sun is rising to my left. The sun is glistening onto the city view. It casts a really beautiful glow. And I wake up feeling privileged and grateful every single day. But it's also just like what we say, the rising tide lifts all ships. It's not sunshine and rainbows. It's pretty scary. It's called raising your thermostat. And that's something we're going to be diving in over the coming weeks. But today, I'm trying to give you an update. Over the last week has been crazy. I'm pretty happy with the cadence that we've been getting back on podcasts of 2 to 3 times a week. For the last week, we've been living out of boxes. We finally got someone to help us get rid of all the boxes. There was so much. We just don't have the time. Hang and I are still living on a mattress on the ground. We have our bed frame just in a box still that we haven't even had a time to unbox. This desk broke. One of the legs, actually the motors stopped working. And so I had to order a replacement motor. But thankfully for Desky, they actually shipped it out pretty quickly. We got that fixed. The motor actually works better than ever. And we didn't even have Wi-Fi as well. We were actually just connected through hotspot. And so calls were really tough. And for 2 days, I wasn't able to get my steps in, only to realize that if there's a will, there's a way. And so what I did was I got the walking pad, I put it under the kitchen desk, and I put a big box, a barbecue box, and I put my laptop on top. So I was still able to get my steps in. And over the weekend, I went to a track day and almost ate a wall. That's going to be posted on YouTube. Speaking of, we are getting back on YouTube as well. We have new content strategy, new team, everything. It's really exciting time right now. And over the next 4 months, these are the things that I really want to be focusing on, especially being in this environment. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Again, we're talking about the identity crisis that every successful Asian man goes through. And I'm sure that you guys, even if you're not Asian, might go through something similar. And I'll give you a bit of context. In 2011, once I graduated, I didn't do that well for my ATAR. I was smart, but I have ADHD that was undiagnosed, untreated, and I didn't know why. That I was never really good at doing tests and exams. Studying, I'm very intelligent. I pick things up very quickly. But when it comes to getting the scores, I don't get good scores. And it was really tough getting into engineering because I was good at maths and physics, but it was just really hard for me to stay focused. Like coming to uni, I'd actually just go to uni just to hang out with friends, go downstairs, play cards. There was nothing really in it for me. I felt like I was just there to show up because I knew that I should. And so once I finished year 12, I actually really wanted to do visual communication and design. That's where my heart and passion was. And I think just being able to express myself creatively really makes me happy. And it's something that I can spend hours upon hours. There were nights where I'd stay all the way up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning learning how to use Photoshop, learning how to use these apps. However, I didn't know that it was something that I could turn into a career. And so really, I chose engineering for my parents. I thought that would make them happy. At least if I didn't get a good score, I can get into a good career. And the plan was paved out that I would graduate in civil engineering, maybe work in the mines for a few years. And once I finish working in the mines, maybe I can come back. I can come back to city life and maybe have a management kind of gig, earn 150, 200,000 a year. Sounded really good, chasing the money. And that's what we've been programmed by our Asian parents, that you work hard, you study hard, get a good career, be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and you're going to be happy. Your life's going to be set. But these were the conditions that our parents set for us. And they want what's best for us, at least what they think is best for us, which is really just a life that they didn't have. And I totally get it. I didn't know any better. But what I also think, I'm sure you guys can relate, it's kind of unfair that you have to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 18. You really haven't even developed who you are yet. You don't even know who you're going to be. You don't even know how you're going to grow up and what you're going to be like, whether you're actually going to enjoy it. And so you're forced to make a split-second decision which has flow-on effects on the rest of your life at the age of 18. The human brain doesn't even fully mature until the age of 35, at least for men. For women, it's a little bit sooner, 27, 28. So how can we be expected to make a decision that's going to have flow-on effects for the rest of our life? Because when you really think about it, what are you going to do once you graduate a degree that you spent 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years for? Are you really going to start a new career and start fresh, mid to late 20s, competing with people in your early 20s? Of course not. And what you do, and the mistake is you end up getting stuck. And then you have pressure from your parents to get married, have kids, get a mortgage, live the Australian/American dream or white picket fence. And then once you're locked in of the mortgage, what happens? You can't pivot. There's too much on the line. There's bills, there's mortgage repayments, your kids. And so your ability to pivot is non-existent and you get stuck. You get stuck living a life that's not yours. You wake up every day wondering how you even got into this position. And that there are kids and there's people that rely and depend on your income. And so what happens is we seek some kind of escape. You know, for most dads, they just end up turning to food. And if it's before you're a dad, you turn to drugs, alcohol, escapism, and that was me. 3 years into my degree, I couldn't even show up to class without falling asleep. I just knew that if this is how hard it was for me to even show up to class, how can I survive for the next 40, 50 years? I couldn't. And every single day, that feeling just got deeper and deeper. I just knew that I was destined for more. I just didn't know what it was and what I needed to do. No one taught me. Because the truth is, anyone that knew what you need to do, they will be living the life that you want. And the truth is, most people around you aren't living the life that you want. And during that phase from 2011, when I dropped out, most people think, you're 3 years in. You almost finished. Why didn't you finish? What's the likelihood of me actually pivoting once I graduate? Not very high. I would probably say stuck. And so my mindset then was a very backwards mindset that I would rather waste the last 3 years than waste the next 50. I just didn't know what I wanted to do yet. But in the next 2 years was the most pivotal moment of my life. And that's when I fell into drugs, alcohol, and partying. And it wasn't because I was lazy or I was uncommitted. It was actually because I didn't know what I wanted out of my life, to be quite frank. I was just exploring. I was learning how to live my youth. And I'm so grateful for those years because those years gave me perspective on what was really important for me. It taught me the value of actually having a job and being a valuable member to society. And it only went for like 1.5, 2 years. And that's when things really changed. Because the moment that I decided to work towards my goals, that's when my life really took a turn for the better. I want to break down just a few things that I learned in that process that I think could really help you. Number one, growing up, your parents' definition of success is different to yours. They grew up in a different generation. So they can't be expected, or you can't expect them to really understand what it is that you want. It's your life. And only you can really make that judgment. And I think for them, success was really just everything that they didn't have. Success for them was, money, a job, but they've been programmed to work hard. And so that's become a default. Like you either work hard or you die in poverty. And so for them, it doesn't even matter what they do because they've accustomed to the work. And so they associate the reward, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, as success. And so they will force you to go tuition. They'll force you to study. They won't allow you to have friends or have a partner or go out or socialize. My parents actually took away my internet when I was in high school. They wouldn't let me socialize. They felt like it was a waste of time. And as a result, I became socially awkward. I didn't know how to interact with people. I treated people poorly. Do I blame them? Yes and no. I spent a lot of time resenting them, but it was the best that they knew. They didn't know any better. And then eventually, what I came to discover was the success of what I determined to be. You know, you adopted an identity of approval, right? You want to make your parents happy. And in doing so, you're the only one that becomes unhappy because you live someone else's life. So what does success mean? Success for me is looking forward to tomorrow. Success for me is knowing that tomorrow is going to be a better day, that you're already in the best position that you've ever been. But you know what? Tomorrow, it's going to be just that much better. And I learned that in 2020 when I made my first YouTube video, and I cried on camera because I knew that was my passion. I got to go back to the visual communication. The reason why I loved videography was it was communicating through art. Have you ever experienced maybe an event and you recorded it because you wanted to relive it? But when you play it back to your friends, it just doesn't have the same vibe or feeling. And you tell them, I'm telling you, it was way better. It was way, you had to be there. And so I just came to realize that these moments and these things that happen in your life, they come and go so quickly. I want to be able to capture it again, relive it. And so I got obsessed with videography. And when you watch a movie, you're enveloped in this new world, this new environment. You really get to escape. So maybe video for me was a way of escaping. But when I made those videos, I knew that's what happiness was. And that's when I made a decision to myself that it doesn't matter what happens. This is what I wanted to do, and I was willing to give everything up. And during this moment back in 2020, I had a 6-figure salary. I was a project manager, and I spent 3 years to climb from retail to banking to do client services, and then eventually became a project manager. I finally made my parents proud, but I still felt like something was missing. I still felt like something was numb, that there was more to life than a 6-figure salary. You know, I jumped from 78 to 100, and really it gave me maybe like another 1,000 or 1,500 a month, but it still wasn't that much. And compared to the goals I want to accomplish, it made me realize I probably have to work just as hard for another 1 or 2 years for an incremental bump in my pay just to go back and grind again. I'm like, this ain't it. This should not be what success is, because I'm not looking forward to tomorrow. I spent the last few years building up to this climax only for it to just be more of a grind. You get rewarded with more grinding after you grind. And for what? For a job that will probably forget your name. HR will probably delete your files within a couple of years. And so the lesson here is sometimes going against the grain is the way forward. And if you do what everyone else is doing, you get the results that everyone else has. When you stop achieving, you don't know who you are, because your achievement becomes your identity. You attach your self-worth to external outcomes like money, status, opinions, validation, approval. And when you don't get those things, you have a lower feeling of self-worth. You feel like you're not worthy. You feel like you're not capable, because again, you're playing someone else's game. And for me, the moment that you shift from what you do to who you want to become, you focus on building the identity, that's when everything changes. And so here, the actionable step or the takeaways. 1, the first step of rising tide. Tide stands for truth, inner strength, direction, and execution. Today, I'm encouraging you and inviting you to explore the truth. Who are you? Who is your identity? How would you describe yourself? How do you want to be remembered? You know, when you watch a movie, you see a character maybe on screen for 5 or 10 minutes, and they get paid millions. but you judge them based on the actions that you see. And those actions represent certain core values or beliefs. What do your actions say about you? Are you someone that takes risks, that fights for what they believe in? Or are you someone that just dreams, makes commitments that they don't actually follow through, makes promises that they don't keep? Someone that lies to themselves about what they want, someone that confines to societal norms and doesn't have the courage to actually speak up and create the change that they want to see in themselves? Or are you someone that grabs life by the balls and fights for what you deserve and what you want, because this is one and only life? And instead of thinking about your self-worth in terms of how much money you have in your account, or what other people think about your job, or even what other people think about you, what do you think about yourself? What do you see when you look at yourself in the mirror? And if you ever want to understand whether you do rely on that external validation or not, ask yourself, like, would you really be happy if no one ever knew what you did or how much money you had? Would that really make you happy? That's an interesting thought. And I actually had a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday. He's also a fitness coach, a very successful one. And he was trying to figure out what the next step for him was, whether he should get a mentor or a coach. And really what he needed was just validation and just approval for him to just be happy with himself. He's been a fitness coach for a while, but do you want to do calories and macros and Costco reels and meal swaps for the rest of your life? Probably not. You evolve. And as you evolve, your offer needs to evolve. Your program needs to evolve. Your coaching needs to evolve. Or your career, your surroundings, everything needs to evolve. And so what do we understand there? Someone that's making $50,000 to $100,000 a month still isn't happy. So it's not the dollars that makes them happy. It's the fulfillment. It's like, what does that money even do for him? And so hence, that's why we live in this penthouse, because I live within my means. And unless I'm increasing my expenses or increasing my thermostat, I have no reason to want to grow. And I came to realize that when I was growing up, I didn't dream of living in the ghetto. I now have access to an opportunity that most people would never have in their life. So I have to raise that thermostat. I have to make me happy, because deep down, there was a part of me that was afraid of judgment. I was once the underdog and I was relatable. Everyone supports the underdog because they want the underdog to win, because they see a version of themselves in the underdog. And I was the underdog. And now I'm starting to transition to the other side. And I'm not saying that I'm changing, but the truth is you live long enough as a hero to see yourself become the villain. And it's not that you've changed your values, you become bad, but people want you to win until you become better than them, until you remind them of the choices that they should be making, and then they don't like you for it. And I think deep down, there's still a part of me that wanted that validation. I think that's also a reason why I still have holes in my socks. But it's also me wanting to remember where I came from. I think that's also important. And so with Pat, that I spoke to yesterday, I told him that he doesn't have to make content for what other people think would accept him. He just needs to make content that's relevant to him. Like, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just posting stuff that's honestly relevant to me in my chapter, my stage of my life, all the lessons that I've learned. As long as I keep growing, and when you grow in 4 facets. You grow in health, wealth, relationships, spiritual, fitness, finance, faith. So hold on. Fitness, finance, faith, family, right? You can chalk it up. There's different alliterations that people use. For us, it's purpose, performance, presence, and prosperity. So as long as you're growing, you're always going to have lessons that you can teach. And when you have lessons that you can teach, you can monetize, you can productize that. People are going to want to live your life as long as you're moving forward. Doesn't mean that everyone wants to live your life, but there's going to be a percentage of people in the world out of the 8.5 billion people that are going to see some kind of value in your life. And so as to the best of my ability, I've learned to give up on chasing the validation from people or acceptance. I feel so much more comfortable recording at the gym because I honestly just don't care what people think anymore. Because there's still a percentage of people out there that see value in what we do. And I should just document that process, which is one of the reasons why I want to get back on YouTube, because I owe it to each of you that have supported us, that are looking for that spark or that inspiration or that reminder that it is possible for each and every single one of you to actually succeed as long as you put your mind to it. And as cliched as it sounds, you really just need 3 things. You need to have the right purpose, the right systems, and the right support to actually get you there. That's to create the feedback loop. This is why I think you guys are going to love this new offer that we are cooking right now. We're absolutely cooking, and I promise you it's going to get us to $500,000 a month and beyond. As a challenge for you and closing notes, I want you to think about who are you without your title, your income, and your goals. I constantly remind myself on Hang every day that's not the penthouse, it's not the car that makes us happy. When I spoke to Pat yesterday, we're just catching up. Nothing's really changed from 2023. I'm still waking up. I'm still grinding. Nothing has changed. The effort hasn't changed. The person who I am hasn't changed. I've evolved. I guess in some ways I have changed. You grow. But my core values, I would like to think that they have remained the same because they are the thing that governs my actions, my own 10 commandments, if you will. And some people require faith or some kind of religion to remind them of the way of being. And I see no qualms with that at all. I think it's great to have a guide for you to move towards. I just like to create my own rules and do what makes me happy and not have to confine myself to anyone else's standards. And do I believe in a high being? Absolutely. Do I believe in a specific religion? I believe that they've been tainted by man, stories by those that want to have power. So it's hard for me to want to have faith in something that was technically man-made. Whether the actual stories behind the human intervention are true or not, I'm open to it. But there's how many wars have been started because of religion, because of power. And ultimately, it's hard for me to confine to someone else's ideals. So create your ideals. Share it in the comments. Share it with me. I'd be more than happy to engage in an educated discussion. I'm all for it. And if you're wanting to take this to the next level and you want to join a winning circle that want you to win the rising tide, DM me truth and I'll see if you can be a good fit. That is today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Slightly different format. We've got 2 cameras now. And, again, we're leveling up our content. I'm just trying to make this as easy for my editor as possible so he doesn't actually have to switch between these 2 cameras. And for those of you guys who are wondering, I have a foot pad underneath here. And I can swap between each angle. I can look at this camera or I can look at this camera and then back again. It's really cool. Anyway, just going to go through some comments here, see how you guys are doing. I hope you guys are having a great day so far, by the way. And again, let me know what you guys think about this new format. I'm aiming to get into live at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, guys, that is it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.